HAR.com was already a valuable tool, but once we were able to establish a relationship with our realtor, we had access to premium features that allowed us to feel much more educated. He brought tremendous experience, deep knowledge. I don't think we could have gotten through it without him.
Good morning, Texas Realtors. What an incredible morning it is. You guys are bringing the energy, the passion, and the commitment.
You are the strongest grassroots advocacy force in the state of Texas. You are the voice for Texas real estate. And when we stand together, we make a big impact.
We were able to sit down and talk about the issues that we are prioritizing this legislation, some of them being housing affordability, private property tax, transparency, and water infrastructure. We were able to discuss issues that they were concerned about as well.
We are here today at the Capitol for Realtor Day at the Capitol. We show up, we have meetings all day with Texas legislators, and we really have great conversations about the issues and the legislative topics that are important to us for home ownership, for property owners' rights, and this is the day where the rubber meets the road for realtors.
I invest in TreePack because it's the right thing to do. I invest in my clients, I invest in our industry, and if I didn't, it would be sticking my head in the sand and waiting for someone else to do what I need to do. If we're not at the table with the politicians, we're on the menu.
What I really like about this global dinners that we donate to TreePack is that we have a chance to learn about other cultures. With Houston being such a diverse market with all these other cultures, why not know more about the people that we serve, helping them find homes, that they're getting together, having a meal together, and learning about it. So I'm really excited that these global dinners come, giving us the experience to know where other people come from to better serve them, and at the same time, donating to a great cause in TreePack.
Being a first-time home buyer, I wanted to make sure that I was able to get into a home that would not stress me out. Through HAR.com, my realtor found me some down payment assistance, and that made it a lot more affordable to purchase a home.
Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media and Sponsorships for HAR, and I'm pleased to be joined by two guests this morning. We have one with us right now and one who's waiting in the green room with a lot of answers for a lot of very important questions. Before we get to him though, Amber Burton Alfred, who's HAR's Director of Governmental Affairs and Advocacy, is joining us. Welcome to the program again, Amber.
Hi, Christina. Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy Monday. Hope everybody's doing well today. Thank you for joining us to talk about everybody's favorite, or maybe not favorite, or least favorite topic, government affairs, politics, and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy to be here with you guys. Christina already told you my title. I'm your Director of Government Affairs and Advocacy. And what that means is I'm over all things that relate to the policy regulations with the government. So elected officials, but also property taxation, things like that. So that's what my department handles. I have been at HAR for nearly a decade, which is really, I'm excited because I was for so long the youngest, quote unquote, person there because people love HAR. So I'm excited to have been with you guys that long, Christina, and excited to be here today to talk about what happened at the state legislature, and I'm excited that I'm not doing most of the talking today. We'll be hearing from my colleague up at Texas Realtors, who does the same thing I do, but for the state of Texas. So for all of our members, if you don't know, Houston Association of Realtors is the largest association in Texas, second in the country, and we're about a third of the membership for Texas. So it's really important that we have a good working relationship, collaborative with our state association.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk about that actually. But you mentioned this is everybody's favorite topic, or maybe not favorite topic. Everybody has different opinions when we start talking about politics. But there's real reasons why this is so important for realtors and homeowners to be aware of. Why is advocacy in the real estate space so important?
So real estate, the sale of property, mortgage, title loans, all that is a heavily regulated industry. We are lucky to be in Texas that's pro-business, so we don't have some of the regulations that other states have that are a hamper on real estate. But just beyond just the transaction itself, or the property itself, there are a lot of other policies that impact real estate. So here in Houston area, in the Southeast Texas Gulf Coast region, one of the most important policies that we advocate for is in protection from flooding. So retention, resiliency, and mitigation, because we are going to get water, and we really focus on that. Another one is housing attainability. So can't sell houses if they're not building them or they're not affordable. So that's another one of the policy issues that we work on at the local level.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amber. So how you mentioned that strong partnership, right? So how did HAR work with Texas Realtors or other local realtor associations during this session this year?
So I'll answer it kind of in two parts. So we do have other local associations in the state. Not all of them have their own government affairs and advocacy department, but many of them do. So we definitely talk to our counterparts in other parts of the state. So the bigger associations are MetroTex, which is in the Dallas area, San Antonio Board of Realtors, and Austin Board of Realtors. So we kind of go back and forth and say, what are you guys dealing with? Houston is unique. We don't have zoning in Houston, so no one really relates to me on that. So we try to be kind of always like an innovator. That is something that HAR is known for, whether it's technology, whether it's tools. This, Christina, even having this Member Focus Monday. So I try to emulate that same spirit of innovation and staying in front of issues. I always tell my staff that if we are hearing about something in the newspaper, to me, I feel like I'm not doing my job. So we try to stay boots on the ground and keep our ears to the streets to know what's going on before it becomes a major problem. So Trey and I, who you're going to hear from later, Trey Bates from Texas Realtors, we work closely together. We both started in about 2019 in these roles and had some big shoes to fill because the people before us have been here for a long time. Dana Curvin, my predecessor, and oh my gosh, I just forgot. Mark Lehman, I'm so sorry. Mark Lehman was Trey's predecessor. He unfortunately passed away, but Trey and I have worked very hard to make sure that we continue the legacy that came before us, but also make new strides. So you'll hear some issues today from Trey, some policy that came about. We started, I know Texas Realtors doesn't always like it, but we make sure that they know in writing from our board of directors kind of our issues at the local level that will be at the state, because Houston Harris County is one place that's always because we're so big, the state is always coming in to do something that could affect the power of our local elected. So it's just it's a tango, if you will, and a balancing act. So it's really important that Trey and I are on the same page on these issues.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Amber, for kind of outlining that. And of course, our members that are tuned in this morning, they're all local, and this is the lady you want to talk to when you have those issues. And we're going to bring Amber back in just a little bit. As she mentioned, we have with us, thank you, Amber, so much. We have with us today also Trey Bates, who is the Vice President of Governmental Affairs for Texas Realtors. Welcome to the program, Trey. This is your first time on our show.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to talk to your members and talk about something that's important to what I know that Amber and I do every day. And I know our members need to know more about it. Sometimes they kind of don't really engage in that type of thing because politics kind of is a thing that people don't tend to engage in. But advocacy, real estate is super important. So listening to your questions with Amber was intriguing to me because that is something our members really need to pay attention to.
Yeah. And to that point, Trey, I just want to mention we had a comment that came in from Lana who said, powerful topic, advocacy versus a lot of crazy out there. Hashtag level up. So we like that. Now, Trey, Amber did a good job of kind of talking about your relationships and what you do. Could you tell us, though, in your own words, who you are and what you do for Texas Realtors?
Sure, Christina. Again, Trey Bates, Vice President of Governmental Affairs for Texas Realtors. I work with our members, our local associations, and our state leaders to advocate for property rights, strengthen the real estate industry, and just to make sure that our voice is heard at every level of government. But before joining the staff side here at Texas Realtors in 2019, like Amber mentioned, I was a broker for over 30 years and served in leadership positions at the local, state, and national realtor levels. And I've also been active in working with associations like HAR and for many years just to advance issues that are important to our members and consumers. That's really my role, is engaging in the advocacy world so that we can make sure we're engaged.
Thank you so much. So for those who weren't closely following this season, what were some of the biggest real estate related issues on the table?
Well, we saw some big stuff happen this session. So in the regular session, which was that started in January and finished up in the beginning of June, there were three main themes that I would say are the major themes of the session, and that would be property tax relief, where lawmakers were determined to deliver significant savings for homeowners, and there was a debate over how best to structure those changes, and we were involved in those debates. Number two, it was housing affordability and supply. Proposals aimed at removing local barriers to new housing, and especially smaller and more attainable homes. And that was something a lot of our cities and communities were engaged in too, because there was concern about local control, which you'll hear a little bit about. Or you might have already heard about, and then the state coming in to make some certain rules. But housing affordability and supply were a big push behind those issues. And then number three, consumer protection and real estate transactions. Which there were a number of different reforms that happened, but a big one was agency relationships, title security, preventing fraudulent property transfers, just to name a few. But a big one was agency relationships, and we'll mention a little bit later about the agency bill that we worked really hard on. But there were a number of other issues about disaster relief, appraisal reforms, professional licensing, a lot of things like that we worked on.
Very good. Thank you so much. And of course, if people couldn't pick up on that, all real estate related issues. That's what you guys are focused on. Let's talk about some wins. What were some key wins for realtors and homeowners during the 2025 legislative session?
Well, we had several. And we had a number of wins. And I would say that this is a record session for us. We had about 60 wins this session. And that's hard to imagine. If you've ever watched that little Saturday morning episode of How a Bill is Made, it's hard to get a bill to pass. But 60 real estate related bills that were supportive of real estate and all the public policy positions that Texas Realtors holds dear, 60 bills passed in that area of importance. And I'll name a few big ones. Agency reform. We ended subagency, and we require written representation agreements before showings or offers. This increases transparency for clients and protects realtors from misunderstandings. That was our number one bill that we worked on. Another was tax relief, property tax relief, raising the homestead exemption to $140,000 for everyone and $200,000 for seniors and disabled Texans. Another one was small business support, exempting $125,000 of personal property from income tax, from income producing personal property from taxation, sorry. And then also we had real property theft protections, new criminal offenses, and procedural safeguards to protect homeowners from fraudulent conveyances. I know we heard a lot from our Houston area about those issues, and we made sure that that was something that we worked on too. But all of these things strengthen property rights, improve transparency, and keep our money in our homeowners' pockets.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Were there any proposed bills that Texas Realtors actively opposed, and what happened with those?
Yes, there were a number. There were 150 bills that we opposed actively, and 0 of them passed. So very successful. But we worked closely with HAR, and Texas Realtors opposed all of those bills. They included things like creating new burdens, limiting property rights, disrupting the real estate market. And just a few examples. There were some bills that would have prohibited certain political contributions and expenditures and communications by professional associations like Texas Realtors or HAR. It would have limited our ability to advocate for realtors and property owners. That bill didn't go anywhere. It was another bill that sought to expand building code requirements in ways that could have increased costs for both residential and commercial projects without any real benefit. Another bill that granted counties expanded authority to regulate certain activities on private property, raising concerns about overreach and land use decisions. So another infringement on private property rights. Another bill that targeted corporate ownership of single-family homes, but included provisions that would unintentionally restrict legitimate investment and property transactions. So we looked closely at those issues. And then also another bill that proposed new limitations on appraisal increases that could have created market distortions and shifted tax burdens unfairly among property owners. So through coordinated advocacy and including direct outreach to legislators and testimony at hearings, all the things in advocacy, we were able to stop these bills outright and ensure that they did not advance and form any harm to property owners in Texas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We had a couple comments come in. Tracy Henderson is singing "I'm Just a Bill" from Schoolhouse Rock. But Amber Freeze said, nice work. And I, of course, couldn't agree more. But I know this work isn't done alone. How did realtor engagement, calls, emails, of course, Hill visits, how did that all influence what happened at the Capitol this year?
Well, that's what makes all the difference. And so member engagement's huge for us. So lawmakers hear from a lot of people. But when they hear directly from realtors and their constituents who live and work in the communities that they represent, it carries real weight. And so this year when HR members and realtors statewide packed the halls in Austin for Realtor Day at the Capitol, that was a huge impact. And on top of that, we had members providing testimony in committee hearings, telling real-world stories about how these bills would affect property owners, buyers, and sellers. And our contact team members, those people who have relationships with elected officials, they were making direct calls at key moments in the process. And that combination of grassroots voices, expert testimony, and personal outreach helped us to get the good bills across the finish line and stop the ones that would have hurt the real estate market.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And thank you to, I know many of the people that are probably tuned in right now or listening to the replay, they were probably somebody that made those calls or attended those Hill visits. So we appreciate all of your work. What do you think was maybe the most surprising outcome of this session, good or bad?
Well, one surprise on the good side was how quickly lawmakers came together on the real property theft bill. And that's not often that you see bipartisan consensus form that fast. But the stories from homeowners who had their property stolen through fraudulent filings really struck a chord with the members on the committee on the dais that heard that testimony. And on the more challenging side, some key housing supply bills didn't really make it across the finish line despite having real strong momentum at the beginning. One example was like an ADU bill we'd been working on for the last 2 sessions. It would have given property owners more flexibility, and I'm sorry, I used an acronym. ADU means accessory dwelling unit, and it would allow property owners more flexibility to add small secondary units, like something like a grandmother's apartment, something that could help housing affordability, increase the supply, we had broad support lined up all across the line for that, but ultimately it stalled before final passage. And so this was disappointing to us. And it's an issue that we're going to continue to work on in future sessions because it's a real opportunity to expand housing options for those who want to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So what new laws or changes should realtors be aware of now to stay compliant and informed?
Well, I would say, like I mentioned earlier, there are two big standouts, but the big one is we called the bill, the agency bill that we helped change. This was a bill that we helped to file. And so that was our number one bill, the new agency law, which was Senate Bill 1968 by Senator Schwartner. It removed subagency and will require a written representation agreement before showings or offers. And it goes into effect January 1st, 2026. So now's the time that you need to start updating your forms, adjusting your processes, and having those conversations with clients about that change and how you engage. Another one was Senate Bill 1333 by Senator Hughes. This cracks down on property fraud and unauthorized occupancy with tougher penalties and faster process to remove squatters. Both are wins for property rights, and there's more coming, so keep an eye on Texas Realtors updates to stay ahead.
Great, thank you. Are there any other requirements or protections realtors should be preparing for in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, so beyond the two I just mentioned, we have a lot of ongoing rulemaking about appraisal transparency, property tax relief measures. Another one to note is Senate Bill 2173, and this one protects most buyers from surprise tax bills when a tax certificate is wrong. So while keeping exceptions for certain related parties like family members, and so that one would be where you get the certificate from the taxing authority, not from the third-party entities that you sometimes get in your closing. So that'll be important to get. So that'll protect the property owner from any of the taxes. Another one would be towards fairness and transparency in real estate deals is to stay plugged in and what any updates that we have that we're working on right now in response to all the changes in law, all the 60 bills that passed, a lot of things that happen. There's going to be a lot of changes. So please stay updated. Take whatever classes that become available and updates to the law. There's going to be updates to our forms. There's going to be a lot of updates coming. So please look into that.
Pay attention. Absolutely. Thank you so much. A lot of people are thanking you and Amber for this great information this morning. They're saying it's a great way to start our Monday. There was a question that came in from Rob Cook. He is asking, can you expand on SB 17?
Sure. SB 17 was a challenging bill that we had that we knew was going to pass this session. It was a bill that came up last session that we were able to kind of stop because it was a challenge for us. It wasn't something that was ready for live. And so we worked during the interim with the senator who was leading that effort. And it was a big effort on our part to help navigate where that law was going to end up, where it was hopefully going to land. And ultimately, Senator Kolkhorst, who was the author of SB 17, we got her into a position where she understood, heard all the real estate concerns, and actually crafted a bill that answered all the questions that we had. That it was a bill that we knew if we had to have a bill pass, it was going to be something that we were going to be willing to live with and be okay with. And it wasn't going to harm our members. It wasn't going to put us in a problem with fair housing. And so that was the Senate version of it. But when it got over to the House is when it got very politicized. And when I talk to our members a lot, there's a lot of things we have to do when we're lobbying on behalf of our public policy positions with elected officials and especially across the street at the Capitol. I have to fight through the political things that are happening, that kind of conversation, political issues. I got to fight through partisan issues to where I can get to a good policy conversation. And sometimes I don't have that much time to have a conversation to get through all those layers to get to good policy conversation, because when we get to the policy nuts and bolts, that's where we really thrive as a bipartisan entity. We don't pick party right or left. And when we get to policy is when we can get consensus. But the problem sometimes is politics and partisanship get in the way of that. And in this case, SB 17, the final version of it, that what came out of the House, there were a lot of amendments made to it that were not pleasing to us. We were not happy with. But the good thing is what we did come out of that was, if you are a foreign person from one of those forbidden countries, like for now the list is China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia, you still have the ability to buy a home. We protected your ability to come to Texas and buy a home. Now there are a lot of other limits out there on property for those individuals, but we protected the right to have a home, and that was the one thing we got out of that negotiation, and we felt that was the most important thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for going through that, and thank you, Rob, for that question. We're going to bring Amber back in, and I have a few more questions for you both. Of course, if you are tuned into the live stream and you have questions for either Amber or Trey, please type those in, and we'll take a look at those and get to as many as we can. I'd love to hear from you both on a couple of things. One being just misconceptions. I love dispelling misconceptions on this program. What's the biggest misconception, realtors have about how the legislative process works? We can go with you first on this, Amber.
Well, since I'm not a realtor, I'm a recovering lawyer. Let me go first. I think one of the misconceptions Trey just hit on, time. Like we're one person. Our team is one person, and there's hundreds of legislators and other moving parts, and there's a lot of other associations, special interest groups. So it's a lot to juggle. So I think a misconception that realtors tend to have is that like you're gonna get exactly what you want every time, and it's not just realtors; it's just people that aren't in this field. So that like SB 17 issue, people are like, "Are you upset about it?" I know we fought against it last time. I was like, "I'm not happy about it, but I'm happier than I would be if the original bill passed and people couldn't buy property." So I think the misconception is that you're going to get whatever you want. And like that saying, that old adage people use is perfection is the enemy of progress. I really do believe that. And what I love about being in the legislative side and not actually practicing law is that we're making laws. So whatever happened this time, like Trey said, we knew that this was going to go forward. And when you see it's, 1 through 40 in a bill, it's probably going to pass. So for sure, So we know if there's something that we need to tweak next time, and people start, especially in our area where we have such a diverse population, and we start seeing problems and things that we didn't foresee, unintended consequences, we can go back to the legislature as long as they're there working. We can go back and we can then say, okay, we need to tweak this. This is not working for real estate. So that's I think the misconception. Like it's not going to be perfect every time. But
yeah,
we have to
absolutely. I think sometimes people forget that a compromise by definition is still a win. And so that it plays into it a lot, I'm sure. Trey, what about you? Any thoughts on misconceptions?
Absolutely. I'd say the biggest misconception is that thinking that bill, when a bill gets filed and on its surface that it looks good or bad on paper, that is guaranteed to pass or fail in its present form. The reality is the process is fluid. Like we said, the process of a bill, it gets amended, it gets merged, it gets delayed, or it gets totally rewritten. And then we have to be engaged from the start to the finish of that entire process. And that's why relationships are so important to us, because during that process, we're leaning into those relationships. And we spend a lot of time off season trying to build those contacts and relationships with people so that we have the privilege to make a hard ask of them when we're in those deep discussions at the Capitol. And so a bill's journey isn't a straight line. It's more like a game. I like to call it like chutes and ladders, maybe, if you will.
Very good. Well, Trey, I'll start with you on this next question. What can members do right now to stay engaged before the next session rolls around in 2027?
We are always working on our contact teams. Like I mentioned to you, was one of our most important ways to be effectively advocate on any real estate law. Those relationships that you have at home, let Amber know who you know, even if it's just an acquaintance, a neighbor, someone I'd be willing to call, or someone you know dearly. You went to school with them, their family member, whatever it is, a relationship at City Hall, county government, the state government, any of those relationships you have, make them known to us, because we will help. That will help us know who those people are that we can engage to help affect positive change for real estate.
Excellent. Amber, anything else our members can do here locally to get engaged and support you and your team?
I think just to piggyback what Trey just said, definitely, I'm always telling them to, who do you know? Looking at, I know realtors, they are masterful networkers. So who do you know? Also, though, get involved in your own way. And I don't mean just run for office. I mean, be on a committee locally, serve on, the appraisal district, different things to understand and be in the loop on how the process works. But also, just letting us know who you know, and also let us know about what issues you've seen. I mean, it's nothing too big or too small. We have tackled issues like the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, all the way to like the permitting process, or wastewater issues, short-term rentals. So like, let us know if you're running into a problem or hearing things. But also, we have a lot of committees at HAR you can get involved in. Texas Realtors has committees that are public policy related. You have TreePack, which is a local and state function, and that's Karen Driscoll, my counterpart, that does that. And you also have NAR that has their set of committees as well. So like, people always comment, Amber, what are we going to do about the insurance problem or FEMA? Well, then you probably want to get involved on the NAR committee that deals with that. We can help you locally at the state level, but there are plenty of opportunities, and I'm excited. I wanted Trey, Christina, thank you for having Trey on here, because Texas Realtors has their conference coming up in August here in Houston. And the NAR's conference is here in Houston this year in November. So at least just come. If you've never been or you don't know what to expect, come to the meetings. Come to that meeting, sign up, register, go to their CE classes you can go to. It's local, so there's no excuse, and you'll see how to get involved.
Thank you so much. We had a comment that came in from Tracy just saying we need to support our governmental affairs leadership by engaging when there's a call to action. So I want to ask you, how can they ensure that they're receiving those calls to action?
Yeah, so we've learned over the years that general calls to action have not been as effective as more strategic calls to action that are much more focused. So you haven't seen as many from us lately of the general call to action from membership. Now we'll use those when we need to, but we try to keep that kind of in our holster when we really need those. But when we have targeted ones, it's very helpful. If we ask you to make a call or send an email or just respond with a click, then that would be super helpful, because when we're asking you to do that, it's probably very specific to a small audience that we want to hit on. So that's super helpful. Thank you, Tracy.
Absolutely. And, we know that realtors are always getting text messages and emails. So if you get one, it sounds like Trey's saying it's an important one. You need to click on it. Right. Well, very good. Well, this has been, again, so informative. We've had a lot of great comments coming in. Thanking you guys for the information that you're sharing. I'd love to give you both a chance to just say any final thoughts that you have, anything that we didn't touch on, or just some key takeaways that you want everyone to remember. Trey, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you again for having me here. And just remember that governmental affairs or advocacy or anything that we do here to support real estate, it's not necessarily about politics. It's about the issues. And we focus on the issues, and the issues are the important things where we find common ground no matter what your political interests are. We focus on the issues, and so that's how you can get involved. And it doesn't have to be the politics is an ugly thing. It can be about the issues that support your livelihood.
Thank you. Amber?
I think that's a great way to sum it up. You have to put your personal feelings aside. And I always remind people, this is a trade association. We are here making policies to protect your business and ability to make income and to practice what you do every day, real estate, and protect that. So we cannot let at the outside issues get involved. So I totally agree with that. And we don't have, Trey and I don't we really put aside our political beliefs and our disagreements, and we focus on our membership. So like I said, don't hesitate to reach out with questions or concerns.
Thank you. Well, thank you both again for your time today. We did share a link in the comments for the Shaping Texas conference, which is next week, actually, August 21st through 24th. It's taking place downtown at the Marriott Marquis in Houston. So as Amber said, it's right here in Houston, in our backyard, as people say. Sign up, attend, and learn more about these important issues. Trey, Amber, again, thank you so much for your time today. This was wonderful.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you. Well, that is it for this Member Focus Monday. I do want to mention next Monday, we will be joined by Eric Berger with Space City Weather to discuss where we're at in hurricane season and what to expect for the remainder of this year's hurricane season. So be sure to tune in next Monday at 9 a.m. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.